So very excited to have what I consider a lot in my wheelhouse, which is food and downtown establishments. I'm an alum from the early 2000s. I crossed paths with some of you, and I'm very excited to have you on our program telling us about how you came to be part of the downtown scene. I'd like to start by introducing Chef Ben Smart. He's an '04 graduate. He studied and worked at several restaurants, including serving as executive sous chef at an upscale eatery located outside of Seattle before returning to Iowa City in 2013 to help open, listen to this list, Big Grove Brewery in Solon. From there, he went on to open Pullman Bar in downtown Iowa City, Big Grove Brewery Taproom, and St. Burch Tavern. Those are amazing places. Any of you that have been in Iowa City know that those are pretty iconic. In 2017, he was highlighted by Plate magazine as one of the 30 chefs to watch. So welcome, Ben. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, you bet. I'd also like to introduce Bob Franklin. He's the owner of Elray's Live and Dive in downtown Iowa City. It's located in the space that was once Blue Moose, and before that, the Q. And Bob, you and I also crossed paths in Iowa City, and that was one of my all-time favorite places until I went to Elray's a few weeks ago, which is now becoming one of my all-time favorite places. So Bob is an Iowa native who currently lives in Nashville, and he's also the CEO and part owner of a popular live music joint called Tin Roof, which has 18 locations in 12 states. And we have a lot of Iowa clubs throughout the country that are using Bob's restaurants as their official Game Watch locations. So Bob, thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Great. And then I'd like to introduce Lesley Rish. She's a 2010 graduate and the founder of Dumpling Darling, a fast casual fusion food restaurant inspired by dumplings and street food from around the world. Her creations focus on vegan and locally sourced items. After graduating from the University of Iowa, she lived and worked in South Korea, where she discovered her love of dumplings. She returned to Iowa and started a farmer's market stand in 2014 and eventually opened her restaurant in downtown Iowa City in 2017. Lesley, I'm from North Liberty. My family loves dumplings. We used to go to your farmer's market stand in North Liberty and got your delicious dumplings. So I'm so glad that you were able to open something in Iowa City so I can get my Korean barbecue chicken dumplings more.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you went to that farmer's market. I actually started that farmer's market too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for having me.
Yes, great. Happy you're here. And thank you for starting that farmer's market. I didn't know that you had a hand in that. We, of course, love farmer's markets, and Iowa City has a great one. And I'm glad to see that you've expanded, down to opening your own restaurant, which is very cool. So thank you all for being part of our show. I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about your backgrounds and history. So how and why did you end up attending the University of Iowa? Lesley, can we start with you?
Yeah, so the University of Iowa was actually, it was the first college that I ever visited. I have an older brother, and I got to tag along while he went on some of his college visits. And I went to visit the University of Iowa, and I really, really liked it. When I was in high school, I really, really wanted to be out of state and away from my family. And I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs. And so that's kind of why I picked it. It's not really that far from home. And it turns out as you get older, being away from your family isn't as cool, but loved my time at University of Iowa.
Cool. Very common story, right? We have a lot of people from Chicago suburbs, and Iowa City and Chicago have had a great relationship since 1847, I would assume. So cool. What about you, Bob? How'd you end up at Iowa?
I grew up in small town central Iowa in the 80s, and so it was, Hawkeyes everywhere. It was Hayden Fry and Dan Gable and Dr. Tom and Chuck Long, and so just got attached to it early. And then when I started looking at colleges and made my campus visits, it just reconfirmed that it was home before I'd really spent any time there. And so my connections were deep and early, and not really sure I ever looked at anything else seriously. I just kind of always knew I'd end up there, and it ended up not only just being a great, place for athletics and watching teams and everything growing up, but a great place to go to college. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great time in Iowa history when Hayden Fry took over and kind of turned things around. And Chuck Long was actually on this chapter from the old Cap when we first kind of started, and had some really cool stories. So yeah, it totally makes sense for you. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, my story is not that far from Bob's. I actually grew up in Iowa City, so Iowa City native. went to City High. I kind of always knew I was going to be a Hawkeye. Yeah, like Hawkeye sports kind of run deep in our area. And so, well, I guess it was about 50% of my friends went to Iowa State and the other stayed here. So I stayed with the good guys. But yeah, it was kind of just, it's kind of like Bob. I kind of always just knew I was going to. I didn't really consider much else.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I'm glad you got half your friends that made the right choice, which is very cool. And City High, right? Kind of the legend of Iowa, even is I'm from a small town in Northwest Iowa. And I knew about City High athletics and that contribution. So, yeah, very cool. That makes sense for everybody. We all know that Iowa City and the university is fantastic. What are some of your favorite memories, whether that was an event or a favorite professor or activity? Ben, we'll kick that back to you.
Yeah, so I ended up getting into geoscience. I was always kind of like a math and science kid and love being outdoors, love being active. And so I kind of went down that path. So got into geology, and it's an amazing program there in Trowbridge Hall. And my favorite memory of all was the culmination of our 4 years is a program called Field Camp. And it's basically a 6-week class that happens in the summer after your senior year. And we literally moved to Park City, Utah. So I lived in Park City, Utah for 6 weeks, and we did what's called field mapping, which is really cool. You basically hike in the mountains for like 12 hours a day. But the whole point of it is you're trying to determine kind of like geologically what happened in that area, whether that's, folding of beds and plate tectonics and all that. You're trying to tell the story, like geologically speaking. And so you basically hike around and you find outcrops of rocks, and you determine what they are, like what the mineralogy was, and you create a map and you tell a story. And that's that whole 6-week program. But I was also 21 years old and I was living in Park City, Utah. So went to the No Name Saloon every night and just had an absolute blast. It was something that I look back like incredibly fondly of, like just an amazing part of my life.
That's really cool. I didn't know about that program, but yeah, that's fantastic. What about you, Lesley? Some favorite memories?
Yeah, so I lived in Mayflower my freshman year. And so I have just great memories of riding around campus on the CAN bus. I took part in the entrepreneurship program at University of Iowa. I was always really interested in entrepreneurship, but I didn't have really any like good ideas at the time. So yeah, I really enjoyed those courses because it really just kind of encouraged me to think outside the box, and they weren't kind of structured the same way as all the other courses. And then just kind of a funny story looking back on is my freshman year, I was taking one of those pesky gen ed science classes that you had to take. And I was failing. I was doing terrible in it. So I had to drop the course. And in order to be a full-time student, I had to pick up a course, and it just like one of those few week courses. So I picked up intermediate bicycle touring. And I hadn't ridden a bike since I was like a kid at this time. Now I'm really into biking, but I hadn't ridden a bike. I rented a bike. I had to like bike out to the course, got lost going there. And I was the worst person in the class. Everyone else was a serious biker, and everyone had to wait for me the entire time. And I remember the instructor being so nice and patient with me and like pushing me and my bike up the hill, and then finally just kind of letting me pass. And yeah, so I was a good student after that, but it took me a while to kind of get my bearings.
Oh, that's classic Iowa nice instructor, right?
Yeah,
just helping those who need it. So hiking with Ben, biking with Lesley. Where was this stuff when I was in college? What about you, Bob? Did you do any biking and hiking?
No, no biking and hiking, but took a lot of interesting classes as a liberal arts major for sure. Some things that expose you to some things you might not have gotten into without going to a big school like that, which was always fun. I thought one class was going to be an easy gen ed requirement. Someone had given me some info, so I signed up for it. And then I talked 6 or 7 other buddies into signing up for the same gen ed class. Turns out it was extremely difficult and extremely time consuming. And so those friends would not sit next to me or talk to me for the entire semester after I'd gotten them into this class. And so that was one class that I won't say the name of it, hence anyone might still be able to sign up for it and blame me, but it was very tough and very challenging. And these were all like, you know, people into different majors, and we're just looking for something, you know, a little different than that. So.
Ah, well, very cool. We've all had classes like that, that's for sure. And we all know, you know, Iowa City, I think most of us probably remember the first time we maybe stepped downtown. I know I certainly do. There was just that palpable environment, atmosphere. So how did Iowa prepare you, you know, to own a business downtown or start a business or be part of a business? Bob, you're kind of the newest probably business here. What, you know, how did Iowa help you eventually own the former Q?
Well, besides spending significant amount of time in downtown Iowa City as a college student, that definitely helped, but it took me 20 some years to get back there. But for me, I came from a small town in central Iowa, and, you know, unlike some of the people that came from Chicago, like Lesley, that it was sort of a smaller atmosphere. For me, it felt like a larger city. I had lecture halls and classes bigger than the hometown I grew up in. And so that world just opened up of, okay, hey, this is a big step forward for me. And I think that confidence that you build and being exposed to people from all over the world, really, but certainly all over the country that come into Iowa and to the Big Ten school, kind of enabled me to keep taking those steps throughout life, whether it was the next move to try the new city, to open a new business, to just say yes to things. That sort of confidence, exposure, and willingness to just keep doing things. I think I can credit back to that move where I could have gone to a smaller school. I could have gone to somewhere, you know, really close to home. I only knew one other person that went to Iowa. And so I think I traced that back to the fall of when I turned 18 and came to campus as a big step forward in my life.
That's amazing. And that I can definitely see how you got that confidence, you know, from living in Iowa City. And, you know, side note, I think Bob and I were talking before this, 20 different businesses right now that you're working on, with maybe a couple more to open. And that's a picture of Dirks Bentley behind you at one of your venues.
Yeah. I try to stay busy. And so basically on the road, you know, every other week and operating in 17, 18 cities and 12, 13, 14 states and looking at signing up more. And so I guess I keep saying yes to things and trying new things. And, you know, sometimes it works out. I wish I could say I was 100%. I'm not, but I enjoy it and I'm still here.
Well, that's great. Congrats to you on your success there. Lesley, what about you? I mean, you're you know, you started out at a farmer's market and then you opened a business downtown. You know, how did the university help you with that?
Sure. Well, as I said before, I was in the entrepreneurship program, and that program was all about learning how to write a business plan and learning how to do all the accounting. And, you know, I didn't know it at the time that it was training for what I would eventually do. I never thought that this is what I would be doing. But, you know, when it came time to opening a downtown location and I needed to write a business plan, I was like, oh, I know how to do that. And I was also really lucky to have kept in touch with some of my professors and instructors from that program, and they were extremely helpful to me as I was getting started.
That's very cool, and we've heard great things about that program. So check it out if you haven't seen that yet. Anybody on the call that might be interested in that. So Ben, you've got Big Grove and Solon. When that opened, it was awesome. Who knew that Solon is now becoming a foodie? And then the Big Grove on the south side, amazing, right? I mean, just it was truly amazing. Pullman, St. Burch. You know, how did Iowa help prepare you to have some of these iconic places?
Yeah, I wish that I would have learned how to write a business plan and do some accounting when I went to the school. No, I think what the university really did for me is it did several things. One is just the discipline and work ethic. I mean, that might sound cliche, but like learning to learn. As an 18-year-old, I probably wasn't prepared to kind of strike out on the path that I ultimately did in that moment. So, you know, we all have to kind of grow up, and Iowa was kind of just a great place to get your head screwed on. But really what I appreciate about Iowa and the university and the downtown community specifically is like kind of the relationships and the partnerships that are established. And I think that one of our keys to success has always been, how do we not make it just about us, like our business? How do we be a welcoming spot for community, a gathering spot, like partnerships? And the university has been huge in that. You know, we you know, cater a lot of events for individual departments. We also, I don't know if this is the cat's out of the bag already, but we're gonna have Big Grove beer at the stadium this year, which is amazing. So like, it's the give and take, and really knowing that like the more you give to something, the more kind of it gets back and pays off in your own business. But yeah, could have used a business plan or an entrepreneurship class when I was younger. That's for sure.
Yeah, I believe the cat is out of the bag with Kinnick. So yeah, you're good there, and yeah, that's really cool. And you kind of touched on this, Ben, about, you know, advice, you know, taking courses in business management and accounting, that sort of thing. Lesley, what advice would you give to sort of an up and coming entrepreneur? You know, something that you wish you would have done, or a great lesson you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I would say start small and test out your idea, and then, you know, gradually grow and make sure you're, you know, just testing out the market along the way. But also, what I've come to learn is going big isn't always better. You know, it's like I started as a farmer's market. I opened a few storefronts. I opened one in Des Moines. The Des Moines one, I went huge, and it was too big. It didn't work out. And I find myself more and more these days, like longing for the days when it was smaller and simpler.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great advice. And so just to clarify, you've got a store in Des Moines as well, right? Iowa City and Des Moines.
Yeah. So
Okay.
kind of. Dumpling Darling. I opened a second Dumpling Darling location in Des Moines a few years ago, and it has since closed. But I do have a different cafe called Nosh in the East Village of Des Moines that everyone should check out. Yeah.
Nosh. Okay. Well, maybe we can get Molly to put that in the chat so people can check it out.
Sure.
And I know Big Grove is opening in Des Moines as well. So Ben, people can come visit you there. What about you, Bob? Any great advice for incoming entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice I can give is don't wait to be excellent. I mean, it sounds cliche, but whether you're going to school to be a doctor and serving tables on the side, if you get in the habit of doing good work and working hard and doing things, even if it's not maybe in your desired field, it's good preparation, it's good training. It's not like you can magically one day turn on a good work ethic or turn on the right way to do things. And so the earlier in life you get prepared for that, it prepares you for what you may really want to do later in life. And it opens up doors to opportunities you never knew existed, doors you never knew you wanted to walk through. And life has a way of kind of coming full circle. And I just think that the better you do things early on, as opposed to, well, I'll do that when I'm in my desired field, is good practice and good advice. And then I think integrity, you know, is one thing you should never give up. You should always just try to make good decisions. And it can be tough owning a business to say, you know, these are the right decisions. And sometimes it's a struggle to make those. Because you got a lot of short-term pressure and a lot of different people giving you ideas. But I think finding that integrity and that compass there goes a long ways and allows you to be proud of what you do and do it for a long time. And then just surround yourself with people that are similar, you know, people that have, once again, I can't stress enough, people you can trust and have integrity. That's the only way. No one does this themselves. You know, we all have restaurants that are operating or bars that are operating right now, and we're here. And that's because we have really good people that have partnered with us and chosen to be a part of what we've, you know, put a lot of our lives into, but other people do it as well. And so I just think the more you build that habit and culture, it just pays off in so many ways.
Oh, excellent. That's great advice from all of you. You're inspiring me to do some research. I make a great salsa. Maybe I could open a salsa stand somewhere and then build it from there.
You should.
Well, thank you for that. And Bob, I'll come back to you. You know, what led you to this path where you now have 20 plus venues? And for anyone that's never been to Elray's, I mean, it's fantastic. You've got sort of 3 different venues and, you know, 3 different stages. You know, how did you get to this point?
Well, you know, again, you just sort of keep yourself open to ideas. So I visited Nashville in, I guess it would have been 2008, and it wasn't what it is today. Now everyone knows about Nashville, comes to Nashville, but then we're a little sleepier. And I went into a few places. I'm like, man, this vibe should be everywhere. And so that's where I partnered up with someone to help take the tin roof, which is, you know, what I have here in Nashville, and now I've expanded into other cities, because I lived in San Diego, I lived in Arizona, I lived in Iowa City, and I was like, this vibe is missing everywhere. And so again, just partnered up and you know, started opening places. And then in Iowa City, fast forward, I guess 15 years, I was there fall of 2019, and it happened to be the day that the Blue Moose was their last day, and I saw it in the paper that they were having their last night. And so I'm like, maybe I'll just do something here as well. So I called up the building owner and asked permission / forgiveness for my wife for doing, you know, another project. And luckily she's a sort of a new Hawkeye fan, but loves Iowa City as well. And then just, you know, signed the lease and started doing it. So I think sometimes you can't wait for the opportunities. You got to be open to them and be prepared for them. And that's what led me to be in Iowa City. Sort of wanted to take what I'd been doing for the last 15, you know, plus years and bring it back to a city that means a lot to me. And so when I saw that building open up, you know, I jumped at it and came up with the details later.
That's great, and an interesting path. And we're certainly glad that you came back and continued the tradition of that downtown scene, which happens to be right next to Lesley's business, if you haven't out at the Dumpling Darling. Ben, kind of same question for you. You know, you're making maps and hiking in Park City, and now you're, you know, opening some pretty iconic places in Iowa City. How did you come along that path?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always had that kind of bug in the back of my head that I loved cooking. I think the first time I made something, probably out of some silly cookbook or magazine, that when I made it, I thought to myself, God, this is better than what I can get out often, right? And so like it just started something in me that like sparked a fire. So I cooked all through college, and then when it was really kind of, when the rubber hit the road and is like, okay, it's career time, like what do I really want to do? You just kind of start auditing yourself, and like you're gonna spend a lot of your life working, right? And it just felt right. So I went back to school, you know, I'll try to be as brief as possible, but went to Kirkwood, got a great education there, worked at a great restaurant here locally, which has since closed down, Takanami. And then from there, I was just all about working at the best possible place I could. So every step along my career, I wasn't personally worried. I mean, money was a concern, but I went the route of most resistance, where I want to go where I'm going to learn the most, I'm going to be pushed the hardest, because I knew that to be successful in my mind, I needed to be so darn good that like it was undeniable, right? And so I ended up at the Herb Farm. Long story short, it's this really amazing, iconic, one of the probably the pioneering, maybe 3 or 4 farm to table restaurants in the whole country. It's been open for 30 plus years, and I knew that was the place for me. And so I kind of uprooted everything, moved to Seattle, no kids, just a couple dogs and my fiance at the time, and just changed our lives. And like, not knowing anybody in that city, I just dove into everything, work and farm, and that kind of became our life. Like we worked full time in the kitchen, and then we spent a day on the farm learning about growing cycles and all these things. And it was just such an amazing time in my life. And it solidified, you know, like Bob was talking about, like serious work ethic, and then also tying the connection of work and just life and the balance that exists there. I don't turn myself off when I go home. Like I am who I am at work, at home, and vice versa. I don't have a separation there. And so when I had the opportunity to kind of come back to Iowa City, it's a great place for a family. And I had a kid out in Seattle, and we were pregnant with our second kid, and it was starting to get tough, no support from family members. And we just knew it was about time. Been out there for almost 6 years, and And, you know, relationships have a way of, like Bob said, coming full circle. And a relationship that I had made and a family friend from long ago reached out kind of out of the blue and told me about this opportunity in Solon. And after speaking with him on the phone for, you know, a couple hours, really, I just saw the vision, and I just kind of knew that this was the right time, the right moment, the right move for me. And, you know, I just dove in head first. And from there, I guess, I don't know, the rest is kind of history. We just didn't stop, right? Like, my whole life was devoted towards making everything we did as good as we possibly could, and doing it with integrity and doing it with great partners. I mean, I can't agree more with Bob. Like, you got to be smart about who you partner with. And you got to rely on them, and you got to trust them, but you have to be really open and honest. I think one of the things that has been such a great part and such an integral reason of our success is our ability to just speak completely open and honest. It's one of our, like, literally, like, core values is, like, practicing candor. Like, we want to be honest. And when we are in the room with all the owners, we owe it to each other to say what we think, whether we agree or disagree or what. And so to be able to have that healthy discourse, whereas a lot of people see disagreement as, like, challenging, or a lot of ego can get involved. That's been our superpower, is, like, we just, we try to root out the right call, and we try to make the best possible decisions. And we lead with hospitality. So the brewery has been a whole interesting concept, though, because we're all hospitality people. Like, the background, it's all restaurants. And so trying to navigate the intersection of hospitality and, like, a manufacturing plant has been really interesting, right? So dealing with distribution and all the licensing and everything that goes, like, heavy equipment. It's been a fantastic, amazing learning curve. I, like, learn every single day. It's bonkers. And now we're going to Des Moines. So it's all about the people. In my mind, you gotta trust the people you're with, and lean into those relationships, and, I don't know, work your face off.
Those are great messages and lessons. And you know, I have friends in California that are jealous of Big Grove Brewery. I mean, you're really carving out a name. And I assume you came up with the recipe for Brussels sprouts at the Solon store?
You know, I will give credit where credit's due. That was one of my sous chefs. They got to run a special, and yeah, we ran the special, and it went gangbusters. And you know, when something works like that, you'd be foolish not to ride it out. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
If you haven't had them, get there. And then I haven't been to the brewery in a while, but banh mi tacos also quite tasty from the brewery. So thanks for learning those lessons and bringing them back here to us.
Yeah.
Lesley, too, I mean, you've got an amazing story. South Korea, and then opening a dumpling restaurant.
Yeah.
How did this path come to be?
Well, when I was a senior at Iowa, I, was trying to figure out what's the next step after graduating. And I knew that I wasn't ready to go, work a, job in the corporate world. And I really wanted to see the world, but I didn't have, money to just, go travel. And so I decided that I was going to go teach English in South Korea. I took 2 semesters of Korean, actually, at the University of Iowa before I left. And yeah, I set off for Korea a few months after graduating, and I lived in the tiniest studio apartment you've ever seen. And there was, like, not really even a kitchen. I never cooked. And I just would go, food was really inexpensive, and I was just going out to eat all the time, and I was just eating copious amount of dumplings. And just, like, dumplings all the time, like fried dumplings, steamed dumplings, big dumplings, small dumplings, like for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, like all the time. And they were so, so good. And I had, yeah, it really was. It was, like, really the best year of my life. It was so much fun. And I came back to Iowa after, and my partner was resuming a grad program at the University of Iowa. So I was like, okay, I'm back in Iowa City. What am I doing with my life? What's next? And I was really missing dumplings. I was missing the food. And so I'd started making it for friends and family. I made it for a family reunion. I made dumplings for everyone, and everyone's like, oh, this is really good. You should sell these. And so that's where the idea for the farmer's market stand came from. I thought, well, might as well be worth a shot, see if people like it. And I remember staying up all night the night before, making dumplings and setting up at the farmer's market stand. And I remember being so unprepared because I didn't realize, I never cooked with a propane tank before. And I had one of those tiny little propane tanks, and it died after 30 minutes and I had no more. So there's lots of lessons, but people really, really liked the dumplings, and I got a lot of good feedback from people, that people liked it and that people in Iowa City wanted dumplings. And so from there, we kind of just grew into doing festivals. We did wholesale for a little bit. And then in 2015, I opened up at Nubo City Market in Cedar Rapids. They have that, a little business incubator, kind of a really good risk-free way to get started. And but I always had my eyes set on a downtown Iowa City location when I was, in college. I don't think I really even liked going out. I think I just went out so that afterwards I could have late night food. I just kind of remember always getting, Marco's grilled cheese at the, the late night food stands, or ordering a pizza. And, now that I have this downtown location, and it's just so strange sometimes looking at it and thinking of all the college students who will get to experience it kind of like how I did. And it still blows my mind.
That is an amazing journey. I'm sure you didn't expect to be teaching English and then owning several restaurants. And yeah, that fourth meal in downtown Iowa City late night is certainly something I identify with. But yeah, great stories and incredible journeys. And I think probably most of us have worked in a kitchen at some point in our lives, and what a lesson that is. I mean, just really hospitality is I've done it several times and really treasure those memories. So we've got a little bit of time for a few more questions here. We have had some questions come in. If you would like to submit a question, you can use the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen. Just a couple, couple things here. Iowa City is known for its vibrant culture. The downtown is epic. We've already talked about how a lot of us remember that first time sort of stepping foot on campus, and how town and gown work together. What do you like best about being part of this scene? And Ben, we'll go with you.
Yeah, what do I like best? I mean, I kind of, to Leslie's point, I mean, I grew up here, like I said, and the Atlas was on that corner where St. Burch is for 17 or 18 years. And there's all these like Hamburg Inn, all these iconic restaurants and establishments. And to be even a small part of that is mind blowing. I mean, we've worked really hard, but it's still, sometimes you stop and reflect and go holy cow. I never really expected, right? I mean, I always just set myself up so that when an opportunity presented itself, I felt prepared, right? And I never went into this thinking I'm going to own downtown restaurants or I'm going to start a brewery. None of that was ever in the calculus. It was just I really love cooking and I love serving people and making people happy, and I want to be really good at it. And then opportunities just happen, and you met the right people. And looking at Pullman, which was our first downtown place, and what that's kind of grown into, and how people, I mean, they speak about it like it's been there for forever. And it's been there for 6 years, and that's amazing. But I think some people don't even remember what Iowa City was like without it. And to be a small part of that that's just amazing. It feels great.
Very cool. What about you, Lesley?
I would say, my favorite part of being part of the, the downtown district and the downtown scene is just, collaborating with other people and other small business owners. All my best friends I met, through, they own restaurants or, cafes or bars, and you can't survive without those people. Because really at the beginning, none of us know what we're doing. And I mean, I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing all the time. And having people that you can, reach out to and be like, hey, this is going on. What, like, have you experienced this before? Or if you just need some cups or some disposable silverware because you're out and you need someone to help you, it's really, really nice to have friends in the downtown Iowa City.
That's really cool. And I guess that's not something maybe us on the outside always know about, that you're there to support each other. Bob, you mentioned that when you were doing construction at Elray's, that you were going to Lesley's restaurant every day for your lunch and dinner. So, what do you love most about being back in the scene after being away for a while?
Yeah, I think that was half of my build-out construction budget was on Dublin. So she could probably have a business model following me around, and because it is that good and everyone should go there, along with Pullman and St. Birch. But that downtown community, what amazing, and I came back a lot. It wasn't like I was gone and never came back. I'd make it back a few times a year. I had family in the area. And it's amazing to walk around and still see Joe's Place, Airliner, Sports Column, Mickey's, Deadwood, Gabe's, on and on and on. These places that are truly legendary for how many thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people have come through downtown Iowa City. We all share those connections. So in one sense, you have this consistency that Iowa City never changes. But for those that live there and have been part of it, like Ben and Lesley, you see all the new exciting places like their places there and some of the new retail shops and everything that's going on there. And it's this somehow blend of never changing, feels like you could walk in and maybe you went there in the 70s and came today and it feels the same, but still vibrant, exciting, and always changing. And I just think there's very few places that have been able to capture that. And I think we all, it's, you walk around and it's not surprising once you get to shake hands and meet good people behind each of those brand names in each of those places. It's they're really there. They're working hard. They care a lot. And then I think the downtown Iowa City district, if I didn't get a chance to say thank you to them here, they were Nancy Bird and Joe Riley for me were instrumental through a very difficult year. I opened a business during COVID that wasn't the easiest to open, and just really good people that care a lot and were checking in on you, offering help and assistance. And so I think there's a great combination of really good people running these businesses, a great relationship with the university and the city, and then just really strong people behind each of these things. Again, it's not an accident that these things are coming together, but it is very unique. There's not a lot of places like it.
Yeah, agreed. And we know that atmosphere and culture just doesn't happen on its own. And I know you business owners and working together and sticking together, have led to that. So very, very cool to hear. Got a couple questions coming in from the audience. For those who don't know, North Liberty, Solon are growing very quickly. And when some of us were in college, they were not very big at all. So Ben, I think was it Jonesy's or what?
Yeah.
Was it the Tenderloin, right? Yeah. Okay. So,
yep.
And since you guys kind of moved in, Solon is kind of added a lot of things. How did you sort of see that, or why did you choose Solon for that first location?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the building that we are in is the location of Jonesy's. It's not the same building. Just it's a new build. Just to be clear on that, but I think the reason originally Matt and Faye Swift, they're partners with me in the business and a couple other great people, but they owned Red's Ale House in North Liberty, and they were like one of the premier Iowa craft beer bars. I mean, I think they were the #1 craft beer bar in the state of Iowa for a long time. And for some accounts, even in the Midwest. So they were really kind of like regionally known, and they wanted to put the brewery on the back end of Red's, and through some codes they weren't allowed to. So they went down this process with the city of North Liberty. They ultimately weren't allowed to make Red's into a brewery. And so in looking at other locations, Solon came on the radar for several reasons. One, working with the Solon community, there was definitely like an upside. The community wanted to grow. It wanted to, so there was incentives for a new business to help kind of come in and be a part of that. But also that whole area around Lake McBride, there's a ton of houses. There's a lot of university, like a lot of the hospital staff works there. So the demographic really kind of fit what we were looking for in terms of the density of housing, and then just like the earnings of those areas. I mean, you want to make sure that the people that you're trying to create a restaurant or an establishment for, that they're going to come in and they have the disposable income to come and dine in your locations. So that was part of the equation as well. And then it was just, it's just a crapshoot. It's just like we knew that we had to do something really cool, and we needed to rely on that corridor area. So the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, North Liberty kind of corridor. And, I went in probably with blind faith. I think that there was a lot of nervousness behind the scenes with some of my other business partners, but yeah, it was definitely, it was a risk for sure. And it turned out to be the right one. So it worked out.
Yeah, it was definitely a good call. And I know you and Reds have had a partnership for many years. Great North Liberty restaurant. My niece actually works there.
So, oh, great.
She's a salad maker, loves it.
Nice. Wonderful.
Yeah, so very cool. Lesley, question for you. Someone who's never had a dumpling, suggestions for a newbie?
Oh, and what to get when you go? I get that question all the time. So I think that the pork and cabbage dumplings are always a good place to start. We do have mac and cheese dumplings on the menu. It's very far from any traditional dumpling, but I always say it's great for picky eaters, great for kids. Also, the potato pierogies are pretty basic and not super intimidating.
Okay, so now I'm getting very hungry. That and a quick follow-up, sauce, just sauce, question mark.
So all the dumplings, they come with sauces that go with them. So the pork ones will come with the soy ginger sauce. The pierogies will come with sour cream, and the mac and cheese ones will come with sriracha. But we have a whole list of sauces when you go there. We've got spicy sauces, non-spicy sauces. They're all homemade. They're all super good, and you can get any of them that you'd like to try.
Wow, that sounds really good. I think I'm going to gather up the kids and go downtown tonight. Bob, question for you. How has your partnership with Iowa clubs helped your business or benefited or created good relationships? And how do you get so many great singers at Elray's each and every day?
Well, I'll start with the first one, which is, in a way, that also brought me back to Iowa City, with the Iowa Club and the folks that brought it to the Tin Roof in Nashville. So if you're not in Iowa City for a game day and find yourself in Nashville, come see us at the Tin Roof. It's Iowa everything. The sound is on. There's 400 or 500 people down there every Saturday. It's pretty intense and pretty insane. So to me, it's been amazing. It's definitely helped business. I will tell you, the first time I told my managers, I go, hey, order a lot of Busch Light. And then our beer distributor was like, are you sure you want to order this much? And they're like, hey, Bob said to order it. We ran out at halftime. So immediately the iClub put Busch Light as a top seller for the fall in Nashville. So that's on the map there. So that's a lot of fun. And then great singers. I can't sing myself. My wife is talented. She can sing. So I can't do it myself, but I try to have a decent ear for it. But just being open to listen to people, and it's amazing. The feedback we're getting, the Nashville singers that I'm bringing to Iowa City love it. They absolutely love it. It's one of their favorite trips they take anywhere. And they say the crowds are astonishing, the feedback and the vibe they love. And so the word is out there now that I get agencies like William Morris and CAA are like, hey man, how do I get someone up to Elray's in Iowa City? To the bands that play Lower Broadway here in Nashville, they'll say, hey dude, when can I make that trip up to Iowa City? So it's been easier now because the people of Iowa City have put us on the map for the really good singers, and they're asking to come up. So it's sort of flipped in the last year, where I used to have to point it out on a map and beg people to come make the trip. Now they want to come. They're excited.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That was one of the first things I loved about Iowa City was the music scene. Really has always been incredible. Going to Blues Night at Gunners, I remember when I was first moved here. So thank you for continuing that tradition.
Yeah.
Certainly all the bands, we saw at the Q coming up too were incredible. So I'm glad to see that tradition continue. So we're going to wrap up here a little bit, but so tell us, what do you have going on now? What do you have coming up next? I know you're opening restaurants here and there, but kind of give a plug for us. What do you have going on next? Lesley.
As I said, I have Nosh Cafe, which is in the East Village. It's a great spot for smoothies, breakfast. We have frozen yogurt as well. And up next, I am just kind of looking to enjoy my life a little bit more. And this industry, it takes everything from you. It takes a lot of work every single day. So I'm kind of looking to just take some time for myself.
That's great and well deserved. You should. Cool, Ben. I know you've certainly got a lot going on. Big Grove seems to be releasing stuff left and right. You got a place in Des Moines. St. Burch, I know we were just talking about this. If anyone doesn't know the story of Burch the Bear in Iowa City, definitely look it up. It's an interesting story. But Ben, what do you have, guys? What do you have going on next?
Several things, yeah. So the big thing is Big Grove as a brand just continues to grow and thrive. And so not only are we're expanding to the Des Moines area, which we're really excited about. I mean, I everything I hear is that community is extremely excited and receptive to us, and we're really excited to get out there. One of our former head brewers actually is going to be our neighbor. He owns Lua Brewing Company. His name's Scott Selix, and his partner Whitney. So we're going to be neighbors with them. I'm also on a very, very small level working on it's a little sports bar that's going to be attached to the Extreme Arena that will probably be opening hopefully by the end of the year. So classic kind of take on a sports bar, just updated and done really, really well. I think it's a perfect fit for that river landing. Really cool from scratch menu. So I'll kind of like work on the culinary side of that, like just getting it up and running. Probably won't be much of the day-to-day operations because there's only so much bandwidth that anybody has. But again, it's all partnerships, but excited about that. And then, God, maybe I'll get some R&R. I don't know. Probably take some cues from Lesley.
Gotta take time off.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might be a while for you.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool about Extreme Arena and Des Moines. So best for you there.
Thank you.
And Bob, I know you have a lot going on too. What's something we can look forward to down the road with you?
Well, with Tin Roof, we'll be opening in Kansas City later this year, starting construction soon. So, getting more and more into the Midwest out of our Southeast roots. So I know there's a lot of Iowa alums and Hawkeyes down in that area. So look for us in the Westport area, and we're opening up more of those. And then at Elray is just more and more live music. We're booking, now 2 stages. We just remodeled the back room, new bar, new floor, new sound system. The front room has a great sound system. And eventually we'll redo the top level, hopefully with a rooftop deck there, and do another, full venue stage up there. And my goal is just, again, to just keep bringing more and more and more music there. It's what I love. It's what I know to do and enjoy doing it. And so far the response has been great. So if people keep showing up, I will keep booking more music. So that's sort of what's next for me.
Awesome. Love it. Well, that about brings us to our time here. I want to thank all of you for being part of this. I want to encourage everybody in the audience to patronize your businesses. If you haven't had a fantastic made from scratch dumpling, definitely check it out. And if you haven't had, sat on the outside patio at Big Grove Brewery, definitely do that. And then, of course, live music at Elray's, all very, very cool things. So thank you on behalf of University of Iowa Center for Advancement for being part of our show. I've really enjoyed this.